Hello, Fearless. Welcome to our Tactical Tuesday. We have a special Tactical Tuesday tonight in that we are doing an Ask Us Anything again. The last time we did it was back in September the 8th. And so it's been August the 8th, not September, August the 8th. So just over a month ago, 2 months ago. And so we just want to give you the opportunity to make sure that you have a chance to get any questions that have to do with real estate investment. Maybe they don't have to do with real estate investment. This is an open forum where you have the opportunity to ask any questions you would like. And I will do my best to bring you an answer. And by the way, tonight, guys, a little different than normal for our Ask Us Anything is we have Ermel. We introduced him we didn't introduce him. He's been introduced before, but we had him as our guest last week. He's sitting backstage right now. So if there are any questions that are multifamily related, then we'll bring him on. He will answer those for you. So before we get started, guys, as usual, please say hi. Let us know you're here in the chat. Otherwise, all I see are 15 or 30 or 50 of you, a big number on my top screen, but I don't know who's here. So throw it in the chat. Let me know that you're here so I know who is here and where you're from. And we have someone all the way from Portugal. So that I'm assuming is Ivita. Would that be you, Ivita? Maybe let us know in the chat if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I hope that I am. In fact, one of the questions we're going to address tonight is yours that you had put in our Facebook group. So we're going to actually address that one tonight because I think it's a really good one. Okay, awesome. Yes, it is you. Perfect. Angie from Saskatoon, Craig and Lisa from Edmonton, Kelly and Amber from Panorama. It's me. Okay, good to see that. Lisa from Fort Saskatchewan. So great to see you guys here. Thanks for letting us know that you're here. And maybe you are somebody that is joining us and is fairly new. That is awesome. Just throw your name in the chat and let us know that you're here because that's what this is all about, guys, is kind of building a community, building people around you that are there to support you, there to answer your questions, and there to keep you going on whatever route you're trying to do. You're here for a reason, right? So maybe you have some questions when it comes to real estate investment, and that's what we're here to do is make sure that you have those answers. Okay, so awesome. Cape Breton, Ontario, St. Albert. So we got people from all over the world, and that's great to see. So thanks for joining us, guys. Tonight is Ask Us Anything. So for those of you that have been with us before, you know how this kind of works. This gives you the open forum to throw in the chat a question that you might have. Maybe it's, I don't know, how does a variable rate mortgage work versus a fixed rate mortgage? Maybe your question is, why real estate investment versus a different type of investment? Like, why wouldn't I put my money in Bitcoin, for example? Maybe your question is, where should I start to invest? Maybe your question has something to do with how do I raise capital? Maybe your question has something to do with multifamily buildings. What is so good about those? Whatever your question is, when it has to do with real estate investment or otherwise, this is your opportunity to throw it in the chat and we will answer it live while you are here. Okay. So don't be shy. I know that, sometimes when we're first getting started, we think to ourselves, oh, this is a dumb question. I don't want to ask it. I don't want to look dumb in front of other people or, something along those lines. There is no such thing as a dumb question. I'm just going to say that loud and clear because every single one of us here within this chat, and I know many of our Ignited members who are here in this chat right now are had what we might call simple questions to begin with. And once you get the answers to those, that's the thing, guys, then everything starts to make more sense. And you can move forward when it comes to real estate investing, when it comes to getting closer to your why. And so that's what this is for. Okay, so we're going to get started because we have some questions that were pre-submitted that we think are really good questions to get going. And before we get to our first question, and this one will be for you, Ivita, before we get to that question, one thing I want to just remind everybody about is our multifamily mastery course starts tomorrow. Okay, so we announced this a few weeks back, but the date is finally here. October 11th. It starts tomorrow. And we're really looking forward to that. And the team at Sunset Investments, which is Ermel and Nico and Benoit and Rachel and the rest of their team, they are going to be there to answer your questions. They're going to be there to guide you when it comes to multifamily investing. Okay. And so for those of you, if you have not joined up yet and you still want to, you still can. Okay. It starts tomorrow night. You have up until tomorrow night to join, obviously. The price is $59.97. That's $5,997 plus tax. And you're in. And that's for 8 weeks of membership within the mastery course. And you're going to learn everything multifamily. How do you finance it? How do you structure your business? How do you find deals? How do you analyze deals? What costs do you have to be aware of? If you're ever thinking of getting into the multifamily space, not knowing the answer to one of those questions could cost you tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so if you're going to do it, make sure that you have a really good team behind you. And that's what we've designed this course for. Okay, so starts tomorrow. And I'm sure at some point here, Jules will share the link to that if you do want to join. Maria, thanks, Hermel. Yes, Maria is the other member of that team. Thank you. I actually haven't met Maria personally, and that's why I couldn't remember her name, but I should know that. Good evening, Raymond. Nice to see you. Ray, not Raymond, Ray from Port Hope, Ontario. There you go. Jules, thank you for sharing that link. Just click on that link, guys, and it'll take you to the page where you can sign up. It's $59.97. Our early bird is over, but you still can join at $59.97, okay? All right, here we go. We're going to hit our first question, and this is from Ivita all the way in Portugal. And Ivita, I'd love to know a little bit more about you and where you found us here in Fearless in Canada. Maybe you're from Canada originally, I don't know. But you have a really good question. And guys, this applies to a lot of you that are listening because it's about how do I raise capital? That's essentially what the question is. And I'm going to read you what she put. It says, I need your help. I have 3 super interesting JVs here in Portugal. And hey, guys, how many of you listening now, when you hear that, an opportunity in Portugal, all of a sudden start thinking, never really thought about that. I wonder what's out there. I wonder what kind of opportunities there might be. And our wheels start turning a little bit, right? And here's the thing, guys, is sometimes we focus just on Canada, but there are opportunities worldwide that are great for us as investors. And so obviously, Ivita here has found some in Portugal. She says, I've cracked the numbers and man, they look great. Problem is that I have no investors. Okay. Have any of you been in that place before? Ray or Craig or George or Angie or Mel, have you ever been in the place where you have a great opportunity, but you don't quite have the investors yet? I'm just going to give it a second because I know that there's a lot of you when it comes to raising capital that were at a position where you thought to yourself that, how am I going to find a partner? Okay. That's a very, very common feeling. I know Tiffany and I, when we first got started, that's how we felt. Somebody will invest with that person, but are they going to invest with me? I don't think they're going to invest with me. So I'm going to continue on her question. Yes. So Eric says, yes, sure have, says Angie. Of course, says Ramel. So Ivita, you're in good company that we've all felt the same thing. Okay. So that. Hopefully that helps you a little bit there. She says, I have sent overviews to a few people who are curious and interested, but I did not even get any reaction. A yes, a no, or a not interested. That as well is common. Have any of you listening, any of our Ignited members ever had that reaction at some point where you just don't get a response? You don't know what's happening. Yes, that is common as well. So your question, Ivita, was, do you guys follow up after you share your opportunity? I feel so stuck. I have no idea what to do next. Do I keep on looking for more opportunities if I don't have investors? I can work on my website, other admin thing, but when that's done, what do I do next? Any help and advice is welcome. Okay, so first of all, Ivita, I want you to look at the chat. And one of our viewers is from the Dominican, so that's cool. I can't see who that is. It just says Facebook user, but welcome from the Dominican. Guys, this is a common thing. You might send out some sort of package or investment opportunity to somebody and you don't hear back. Why don't you hear back? Well, we might want to consider what we put in that package. We might want to look at, did I put too much information? Did I put too little information? Did I talk about all of the reasons why that is a good market to invest in? Did I share the numbers as to how confident I am and what backs that up when it comes to the rents I'm going to get, or the appreciation that property is seeing, or those properties in that neighborhood, that city are seeing over the last number of years? How does the financing work? Are your investors from Portugal, or are they from some other country? How do they finance if they're not from Portugal? So there might be a whole bunch of questions that I don't know, Ivita, if you have answered them in the package you sent to them or not. One of the things that we talk about and spend a lot of time on, in fact, we had Credibility June and Credibility July within our Ignited group, was building what we call a credibility package. So this is a package that you would send to a prospective investor and say, here's a little bit about me and why you would invest with us or with my company. Okay, so you want to be careful what you send, what information you send. The purpose of that package is to build your credibility. Why would somebody invest with you versus investing with somebody else? What do you bring to the table? And that's what your package is all about. And I think that is a lot of times, a lot of people focus too much on the property and they don't focus enough on themselves. So I don't know if that's the case with you, Ivita, and what you did send as far as your overview to the few people that you did send. But my suggestion now would be send more information about yourself or your company, or what your mission is, what your goals are, what your why is, and why you think that this property can get you closer and get your investors closer to their why. Okay, so that's kind of the focus of what that package should be. And so that would be my advice there. And maybe there's some other comments from some of our Ignited members or some of our Fearless members here that have also done this and have learned these lessons along the way. Yeah, so here we go. I'm just going to read some of them. They may just have not had the time, says Ermel, or the attention to review it. Maybe if it's 30 pages long, how many of you are going to flip through all of those pages, right? Sometimes Sean and Andrea, honestly, sometimes people are just busy. So yes, follow up is their suggestion. Follow up often. People do business with those they know, like, and trust, not packages. Good advice, Ray. Absolutely. So are we building that relationship with those people? Do they know enough about us to feel comfortable in giving us tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars? Okay, so you need to feel comfortable that they need to feel comfortable that their money is going to be safe. So are we building trust? Are we building a relationship? Yeah, definitely. I need answer to whys. Yeah, absolutely. So why are you doing this? Maybe Ivita, throw it in the chat. Why are you wanting to buy a piece of real estate in Portugal? Maybe throw that in there, because that's ultimately what's the goal. And that helps. If you're clear on that, then that helps you to be able to build that relationship with investors, and you also taking the next step and understanding what the investor's why is. Why are they investing? What is their ultimate goal? Is it just to make a little bit of money, to make a little bit of cash flow, to have some equity appreciation, or is their goal bigger, stronger than that? And can you help them reach it? And knowing and understanding these bigger things kind of behind the scenes, that's where we end up solidifying those relationships and getting investors to invest with us. Okay. All right. So Ramel says, I've never said I'd like to invest in that package. Rather, I'd like to invest with those people. Absolutely. It's all about the people. Yeah. Okay, good. So I hope that there's a few points there, Ivita, that might help you to maybe just change a little bit, maybe what you're sending people. Definitely follow up with them. See if they received your package. I mean, I would start off by just saying, hey, just wanted to touch base and make sure that you received it. Sometimes these things hit junk mail. et cetera, and that might start a conversation. And remember, if you do send an email like that, put a question at the end. Because if you put a question at the end, then most people, when they get a question, feel the need to respond. And at least that gets the conversation going. So there's another tip for you there that might help. Okay, and of course, if you're looking for more help, more in-depth help on this, feel free to reach out to us or our team, info@investorlife.com, or just go to our website, investorlife.com. And of course, that's what our Ignited program is all designed around, is raising capital and to help you go from the stage you're at, having great properties, having great opportunity, but the next step is raising the capital to go ahead and buy as much real estate as you want to buy. And so that's what our program is whole designed towards. And so if you have an interest in that, just go to our website, investorlife.com, and click on the Ignited Mentorship, and we can help you out there. Okay. Good. There we go. Sell the sizzle and not the steak, says Ray. Yes, that is right. Invite them to a call. Yeah, nothing better to build a relationship than actually talk one-on-one with people. Absolutely. Okay, so the next question that we have here, guys, and remember, I'm just going through some of our pre-submitted questions, but you have the opportunity to throw in a question right now, live, and we will try our best to tackle it, okay? So if it is anything to do with raising capital or general real estate investing questions, I am here to answer that question. If it is multifamily related, we have Ermel sitting backstage. So at some point here, guys, one of you needs to ask a multifamily question so I can bring him on stage and put him to the test, okay? So I see him in the backstage smirking. Yes, I can see you, Ermel. That's awesome. So one of you has to bring him out here. One of you. Okay, so the next question we're going to tackle is from Ulina. And I'm going to need some help from all of you that are watching / listening right now. And if you can let me know what your answer to this question would be. Her question is, how do I go about getting a mortgage from a private lender? And what are the rates? Okay, so for those of you that are listening right now, some of you are private lenders. Some of you are have been lent to, are the borrower in that scenario. What advice would you give Ulina? I want you to throw it in the chat. How does she go about getting a mortgage from a private lender? And what kind of rates are you seeing in October of 2023? Okay. Sean, excellent advice. So Sean is our resident mortgage broker, investment-focused mortgage broker who is in our group here, guys. And he just put a great little hint in the chat, and he says, call your favorite mortgage broker. So absolutely. So private lending can be done through a mortgage broker as well. What are some other ways, guys? Are there other ways that you've had or found a private lender? Throw it in the chat. But that is a definite good place to start, Ulina, is starting with give Sean a call, give Sean an email, create a relationship with a mortgage broker that can then help you create a relationship with a private lender. And they can, put the two parties together, put you and a private lender together and help facilitate that relationship. So maybe, Sean, you can throw in the chat, what kind of rates are you looking at these days? I'm assuming it can range massively from 10% maybe up to 25% maybe. I don't know what rates are at for private lending right now. It would depend on the deal. It would depend on how much money is needed. It would depend on the length of term. It would depend on, what kind of upfront fees there might be or not having any fees. So all of those types of things would play into what kind of rate you would get. But maybe you can just throw a little bit of guidance in there, Sean, if you don't mind, into the chat. And guys, you're quiet. You're way too quiet. I don't see any questions. I don't see anything for Ermel. So should we just end or ask us anything right now, guys? Come on, we need you in the chat here. Okay. Ask Here and Fearless group. There you go. Urshad says, last week I invested with some great investors here. Well, there you go. So you ask a question and you're going to get some answers, Ulina. Put it in the group. Say, hey, guys, I'm looking for a private lender. And there you go. Do you still need 20% down with a private lender? Good question. No, it's a private lend. So there is no specific amount down that you need. I'm cooking, says Angie. Okay, well, stop cooking. You can't cook during Tactical Tuesday, Angie. You should know that. I'm just kidding. Rates are dependent on loan to value, location, risk. Kind of what I was saying earlier, says Sean, as low as 8% plus a 2 to 3% fee, up to 18% plus a 4 to 5% fee. So there you go. There's some good guidance, guys, if you're thinking about private lending. Obviously, it's not as inexpensive as a mortgage at a top 5 bank because there's more risk involved. There's obviously a reason why you may not be able to get from a top 5 bank. And so the risk is higher and the rates are going to be higher. That's awesome. Okay, guys. So that answers that question. And thank you, Sean, for piping in there. You were the only one out of all of our Ignited members and Fearless members that piped in on our rates on private lending right now. So I appreciate that. And I'm just bugging everybody. Okay, so we answered that question. Sharon Boyd had a good question, and you know, one of the things. Thanks, Ray. There we go. I've done private mortgages rates in around 10%, lender fee of 1 to 2. Yes, obviously, there's lots of things that depend or that would factor in when it comes to what those rates would be. Sharon Boyd asked the question: what does a proven track record mean to investors? So throw it in the chat, guys. If you were to invest with somebody, so let's say you have 50,000, 100,000, whatever, a million, doesn't matter what the amount is, but you're going to invest with another investor. You're going to be a passive investor. Obviously, if you're going to invest with somebody, and this ties back in with our first question for Ivita, is if you're going to invest with somebody, you want that person to have a bit of a proven track record, potentially. What does that mean to you? Throw it in the chat. Okay. Would you invest with somebody that has never bought a property before? I'm curious. Would you invest with somebody? Would they have to have been a real estate investor for 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? Is it a time thing? Would they have had to have 3 properties, 5, 20, 50? What to you is a proven track record? I'm curious because I think this would be different for most people. So throw it in the chat, guys. And I know there's a little bit of a delay here. Angie says we have invested with newbies because we believed in them and their project. Okay. So newbies might be somebody that hasn't done it before. What else are you looking for? What's a proven track record? George says stability, somebody that's stable. So maybe you can expand on that a little bit, George. Everyone needs to get started on a first deal. Absolutely. Integrity, somebody that has integrity, says Urshad. Skills and knowledge are big factors. So you want somebody to be skillful in the way that they are negotiating, skillful in the way that they are finding tenants, skillful in the way that they're searching for these properties, managing the properties. Absolutely. So would you guys, and for those of you listening, would you invest with somebody that had never been an investor before, but had a significant amount of education and mentorship behind them? Would that help? Would you invest with somebody that had 1 property, or maybe let's say 3 properties, but didn't really have a strong team? When I say team, I mean realtor, lawyer, contractors, that sort of thing. So what all is involved? So skills, knowledge, integrity. I see a lot of that. Ethics. 1, so Sean says 1 is enough for a track record. Acquire your first property and sell a share to an investor so you can buy investment too. That's one of my favorite strategies, Sean, for getting people get going. If you can have the wherewithal and the ability to buy one property on your own, and I know there's other investors here in this chat that have done this strategy, and then they joint venture that property and then pull out that money and go out and buy another one, is a great strategy to get going. So if they have one property, that might be a proven track record for somebody. Education, mentorship are important. I've owned 2 properties and made great profits on rentals and sales. I'm assuming that's you, Avita. And I know that you did share earlier some things about Portugal. Why invest in Portugal? Awesome. So knowing that kind of stuff definitely helps. Communicating that clearly to the people that are investing with you really helps. And that's what our credibility package comes down to. One of the things I've heard a million times over, and it's kind of in the chat here, is somebody is not going to invest with you if you haven't invested in yourself. When I look at, our business activities, Tiffany and I, over the last 20 years, we have spent well over $100,000 in coaching and mentorship for us. Well over that. And it's continued. We still have coaches and mentors right now. And they're very expensive. We spend thousands of dollars, US dollars, every single month. They're very expensive. But what does that enable you to do? And I think that's something that a lot of people miss. Is they're trying to save the pennies and the dimes and trying to get to those dollars. And sometimes if we do spend the pennies and the dimes, you'll see what comes. It just makes the whole journey so much quicker and so much easier. And this ties into, guys, if you're getting into real estate investment, have a mentor, have a coach. Join our Ignited program. Join our Mastery multifamily course that is coming up and starting tomorrow. These are the types of things where it will just propel you into a completely new direction than you were in before. And so I think everybody here in the chat is kind of saying the same thing is, Angie says if they've invested in their education and mentorship, that builds confidence and credibility. Absolutely, it does. Never give up attitude, says Andrea or Sean. Urshad, what we have learned here, work with investor-focused real estate agent. Absolutely. That's your team. It's important. Lisa says, would you invest with someone who had properties in Fort Mac depreciated so much that they were underwater, but who are managing to still make cash flow? Asking for a friend. You have a great friend there, Lisa, that has done a great job over a difficult period of time. And the fact that your friend is still making cash flow after all of the things that have happened there, I would absolutely invest with someone like your friend, Lisa. Heather, I personally invest in people first, trust and honesty. Karina, so at least one property and has equity and a willingness to learn. Does somebody always think that they have the answer to every question, is always the expert? It's okay, guys, to sometimes say, I don't know the answer to that, but I do have a team member that does. I think that will get you farther than trying to fudge your way through a question that you don't know the answer to. Vermel, yes, invest in yourself, your education first, absolutely. How does one build their team? It comes down to building, good question. It comes down to building, knowing the team members that you need, first of all, creating relationships with them. I remember as a realtor, I'll tell you a little story here. I was as an investor-focused realtor here in Canada. I don't know how many emails I would get from somebody that just said, can I see this property? I had never spoken to the person. I didn't recognize the email address. There's no name. There's no introduction. There's no anything. Can I see this property? I'll tell you straight out that most of those people I never even bother responding to. Why? They could be a potential lead. They could be a potential, no. It's somebody that is just probably wasting my time. And at the very most, it would be somebody that would follow through and buy a property, but they're not interested in building a relationship. They're not interested in saying, hey, I'd like to work with you. They're not interested in anything like that. And so a big hint to all of you when it comes to building your team, it's not just, can this person do something for me this one time? That person, that realtor, that lawyer, that mortgage broker wants to do that for you continually over and over if possible. And so that's where the relationship building comes in. Can you be successful at real estate investing if you don't do it full time? Absolutely, you can be. You can definitely start out with having a team around you that takes care of a lot of the duties, and you manage that team. So yes, you can do it if you don't do it full time. Good questions. Yeah, there we go. Okay, guys. So, oh, I see another one question. I have a friend who wants fee in case she introduced me to an investor if the deal goes through, how much those fees are. Who wants a fee in case? So that would be a referral fee of some sort, I'm assuming, or an assignment fee of some sort. Those fees can go anywhere from $500 to $50,000. So it really depends on the deal you're talking about. Yeah, so that can change a lot. Hope I understood that question. No, it doesn't. Good question. Follow up. If you don't do it full time, guys, will you answer this? For most of our investors here, are you a full-time real estate investor, or do you have a day job and do real estate investing on the side? So throw that in the chat and let us know, guys, at what stage you're at. Those that are listening right now. If you don't do it full time, doesn't it look like a hobby? Not if you're doing it and running it like a business. Ivita, you are definitely a candidate for one of our boot camps, because these are all questions that are answered in our boot camp. And so maybe reach out to our team, info@investorlife.com, and we can send you some recordings from our boot camp, because we talk about how you can do this as not as a hobby. You can do this as a side hustle. You can do this as something in your spare time, but you need to set certain things in place. You need to run it like a business, even though it's not your full-time job. Will this be available to view after the stream ends? Absolutely. It stays here within the Facebook group and you can view it. There, thanks for answering, Jules. Angie is, so Lisa, Craig, both have day jobs. Yeah, some of our Ignited members, and they do it on the side. They have a few properties now. Angie and Andrew are both self-employed full-time and run their real estate business. If you treat it like a business, take it seriously, people will know. We have a few times here, freshly full-time investor at $260, Ermel says. So here we go. I'm going to bring on Ermel. Welcome, Ermel.
Hey, Corey. How are you?
I had to have a reason to bring you on here, and your comment was reason enough. $260 before you became a full-time investor. So obviously, up until that point, you had a day job.
Yes, yeah, full-time registered nurse, ICU care. So it demands a lot of long hours and low sleep, but we still managed to work a schedule and work a full-time schedule in real estate and at the hospital. So it felt like two full-time jobs.
Yeah. Did people take you seriously as an investor? Like, were you able to raise capital? Did they take you seriously, even though you were working as a full-time critical care nurse?
Yeah, my availability schedule to take calls was a bit pitiful at times because of my work schedule, right? So on those times where I had the 4-day stretch where I was dedicated to work only, I wasn't able to take many calls and take investor calls, but that's the power of teamwork, you know. So I divided my time a little more aggressively for calls during my days off, and then during my days at work, my team would pick up the slack.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome.
And I wasn't taking less seriously. If anything, they thought my drive was over the top because I was doing both at the same time simultaneously. So
yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. And I'll have one more question for you here in a second, but I just wanted to bring out some of the some of the comments here. Karina, she works full time. She runs her real estate business. Another, I can't see the name, but part-time at 110 doors. Yeah, there are many others in our group that have a handful of properties and are full-time in real estate. So there you go, guys. You could definitely do it. Urshad, I know you have a full-time job. You work for, is it still Sportsnet, Urshad? My cash flow from investment properties is more than my monthly salary. Well, there you go. Good job. Way to go. That's the way to do it. And so, yeah, can we have a job, still invest in real estate on the side? Absolutely. In fact, for a lot of people getting started, that helps them because you still have an income. You can qualify for a mortgage. If you are become a full-time real estate investor, it gets much more difficult to get the financing. So you have to get to a point where you can become a full-time real estate investor if that's what you want. And a lot of people don't want to. A lot of people just want to get a few properties and they're very happy with that. I mean, you're going to be so much farther ahead with one investment property extra, one, than not having one.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Ermel, I have a question from YouTube, actually. It is asking, we are looking into the MLI Select program.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to give some insight into closing costs?
Closing costs. Okay. Depends on the size of the deal. So closing costs would definitely be affected by the number of doors, and also on the bank. Certain banks have different fee structures. So banks would typically add an extra percent at the end, sometimes, or 0.5% for closing costs. But I know CMHC fees, they vary from per door, $150 per door, just to get the application going. So,
okay.
And the 0.5 to 1% extra, depending on the bank that pops onto your deal, not counting, of course, the broker fees and other items that you might find along the way.
Right. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Thank you for answering that. And while I have you on here, let's see. Have you ever invested in a historical property and transformed it to apartments, or seen anybody do something like that?
So funny enough, we had a building that we put an offer on. It was a commercial sale. It was an old rectory next to a church downtown, and it's right downtown. It had a tower, and I'm like, this is my dream. I'm gonna have a tower. And it's right next to downtown Moncton. You have to know it. Yeah. There's a tower. There's a bell tower. There's a huge bell tower there, and this one here was sitting. So it was like towers on Queen Street, downtown Moncton. So that's what we had called the project. During due diligence, we basically had a few architects walk in, give us the best layout for maximum usage of space, and we could only turn out 6 units out of the whole place. It was just to account for emergency exits and to make fire code. We had so much space loss that the project didn't make sense anymore. It would have been this beautiful Airbnb, and that tower room would have rented really high. We definitely had something like that in mind, but we didn't go ahead with it. It was too. It would have been a pet project, not necessarily a profitable one. But we had gone pretty far in the process. We pulled back when we couldn't make more than 6 units out of it.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. So I take it you're still looking for your tower then.
Oh, well, once there's not many around, so you could slim pickings, right? So one keeps an eye out.
All right. Well, if anybody has a tower for sale, then you know who to call. Just call Ermel. Awesome. Okay. Perfect. Well, let me see. Yes. Okay, Urshad, thank you for clarifying. Hockey Night in Canada and Sportsnet. Yeah, cool job. Okay, good. Anything you want to add before I shoot you backstage again, Ermel?
No, but for all of you that haven't had the time to look at our program, look at it. If it's not for now, it might be for later. We can link the discovery call Calendly's in the chat, maybe if you guys want to set up a call just to have a discovery interview with any one of us to kind of break the ice and see what the program has to offer a little more face to face and get to know us personally. We're excited to get going tomorrow night. It's already around the corner. It seems like months now in production, but
Yeah.
finally here.
Yeah.
And yeah, so can't wait to see all the success stories coming out from our first cohort of students. So
Perfect. Love it. Love it. So Jules just shared in the chat, guys. If you are a little undecided, you've been thinking about, I want to join this mastery, this multifamily course that is starting tomorrow. It's a live course, guys. It'll be held on Zoom. It's a relatively small group, 15 to 20 people, somewhere in that area. If you're wanting to join, you're going to get all your questions answered when it comes to multifamily. But if you still just have a couple questions, does it cover this, or is it right for me right now, or something along those lines, book a little call, a discovery call with Mel. Jules just shared the link in the chat, and you have until tomorrow. We start at, remind me the time when we start tomorrow, Mel.
And so 5:30 Pacific, it makes it 8:30 Eastern,
Okay.
9:30 Atlantic. I'm here in Atlantic, guys. I'm gonna suffer the late nights just to push through with you, but it's cool.
Yeah. Okay. There we go. 8:30 Eastern. It starts tomorrow, guys. So you have until then to join up if you haven't done it yet. Okay, good. I have one question from Urshad, actually. He is asking, how much will the rent be for a 3-bedroom bungalow in Bathurst, New Brunswick? And what type of tenants are you going to get in Bathurst? Any insight?
Hey, I'm a market expert in that field because I work there. There's only 118 rental units in Bathurst that fit the 3-bedroom description. So you're going to find families. So you're going to find young families that can't yet afford their first home, or young professionals that have graduated out of apartment buildings, and they want to rent something that gives them access to a little more of a piece of land and tranquility and the feeling of their own personal home. So and those will fetch, if it's a single family home, they'll probably fetch around 1,500 easy. And depending on the quality, if you're looking at like a higher end, you're probably looking at 1,650 up to 1,700. Or if, again, depend on quality, but we rent duplex 3-bedroom split entry basement rooms at 1,450 a month. So
okay.
And that's an easy rent. It's never vacant.
Okay, awesome. Hopefully that helps you, Urshad. And then good tenants in Bathurst.
Yeah, it's a population of 30,000. Screen them properly. You'll probably find there's a hospital that hires over 3,500 people. Like there's good jobs, good people there. So.
Okay. One of our Facebook users, I can't see the name, but the question is multifamily the same as residential? I'm sorry to ask, just have no idea if we're on the same page. So multifamily is, generally speaking, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mel, but 5 units or higher would be considered multifamily. 4 units or under in the same building or same property would be considered residential, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And then so another question on here, can you get CMHC financing for 5 units? Well, the answer would be that's what the MLI Select is, right? Anything 5 units or more.
Yeah. CMHC Standard or CMHC MLI Select, you both qualify for 5 or up.
Okay, perfect. Okay, excellent. All right, well, I'm going to kick you backstage, Mel, unless somebody has another question. I'll bring you back.
It was a pleasure.
Okay, there we go, guys. How cool is it to have a guy like Mel in your back pocket when you can just bring him up on stage and get answers like that to the questions that we have, which is super, super cool. So if you have more multifamily stuff, we can bring them back. I have gone through, I believe, the 3 questions that I wanted to answer on our sheet here. But I have one more. I have one more that I think is a good one, and I would like your guys' advice, okay? So this isn't ask us anything, but this is now becoming an ask you anything. So I'm looking for your guys' advice. Francois asked a question. I have an 18-year-old nephew. What investment advice should I give him? So what would your answer be? We have a lot of newbie investors here. We have a lot of experienced investors here. What would your answer be? If you had an 18-year-old nephew, what investment advice would you give him? Okay. I'd like to know what your answer would be. Yes, I'm turning the tables. That's right, George. It's now an Ask You Anything. What advice, investment advice, would you give an 18-year-old? Here, we're in October of 2023. Our advice might be different than it might have been back in 2005 or in 2015. What investment advice would you give somebody in 2023? Lisa suggests reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Okay. Somebody says hop on a property ladder ASAP. Okay, I'm not sure what that means. You have to clarify that for me. Work for free for experienced investors to learn the industry. Very interesting, Sean. That would be good advice. We sometimes suggest that for investors just wanting to get going, not just young ones, but even older ones that are investors and just wanting to get started. Help out another experienced investor, do some running around for them, maybe a little bit of property management help for them. That can help you get some experience. Give them a book, George says. Any book suggestions, George? What other advice would you give an 18-year-old in 2023 as far as investment is concerned? If I were to answer that question, one of the things that I would do is probably similar to what Lisa suggested, reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad. That was one of the books that changed my perspective way back when we first got started. I would also suggest getting into a piece of real estate that is very inexpensive. Now, some of you might say, well, that doesn't exist anymore, but there are opportunities out there that exist. And as an 18-year-old, if they had help to possibly qualify for a mortgage, they can get a very low amount down, get into a property that has more than one suite, rent out the other rooms, rent out the suite, live for relatively cheap or free. That can still be done in many parts of Canada. But get started, get into a market somewhere. That would probably be some of the advice that I would give as well. Angie makes a good suggestion. Invest in his education and mentorship. Absolutely. Refrain from spending all your money in a brand new car. Invest in real estate instead. Absolutely. Take all your receipts for 1 month and do up a spreadsheet and find out where every penny goes. That is good advice, Karina. See how you can grow after the month and save money from there. Start saving for a down payment. Good one, Urshad. Get property as early as you can. Yep. Invest in yourself. Get a trade job is Ermel's suggestion. Buy your first house. Do a house hack. Absolutely. These are all really good suggestions, guys, as what you would do or advice you would give to a young one nowadays. I saw another question in here, and we're gonna tackle this one too. Where would you say in Canada would the best investments be? I can't see, again, you have to give StreamYard your permission for me to see your name. So I don't see your name there, but where would you say in Canada would the best investments be? This is an Ask You Anything now, guys. Where would you guys say? Throw your ideas in the chat. Where would you say is a good place? Okay, I'm assuming that was Jen that might have asked that question based on Angie's response. Depends on what your goals are. Saskatoon is where Angie is, YXE. Low point of entry. You don't need as much money to get in. Cash flow much more easily. Easier to have passive income. Absolutely. Talk to experienced people that you're investing with. Look for multifamily real estate agent in Red Deer. Oh, someone is looking for that. Okay. Edmonton, says Sean. Sydney, Nova Scotia, says Urshad. Good answer, Nand, where the returns are best. So you got to know what your ultimate goal is, right? If your ultimate goal is to own a property long-term for other people to pay down that mortgage, and hopefully that property goes up in value and it cash flows enough so that you can hold it long term. You might be starting to look outside of major centers in Canada right now. There are some major centers where you can still cash flow, but what you typically see is that just outside those major centers, that ripple effect has happened where people are still close enough to the jobs, but the real estate is a little less expensive, but rents typically are still quite high. And so you cash flow a little bit better. So start looking outside maybe some of the major centers. But what are your goals? That's a good question to ask. And really, if you are looking investment purely, this is where you use a property analyzer form. If you haven't used one yet, they're on our website, investorlife.com. Click in your toolkit. You can download it for free. If you are analyzing more than one property, you got to analyze 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 properties. When you compare one market to another, you compare one property to another, that's when you start really starting to understand what works and what doesn't. It's pretty simple. Okay, excellent questions, guys, tonight. Excellent answers. I really want to thank everybody here for throwing their answers in the chat, being a part of this. It really helps. I want to thank Hermel for joining us backstage and coming on and answering a few questions as well that were multifamily related. And I want to, we're going to end this here fairly quick, guys, but I want to give one last reminder that tomorrow is the start of our first ever Fearless Multifamily Mastery course. And it's a live course. It's not just an online course. This is interaction with several instructors that are going to teach you everything you need to know about buying a multifamily building. So by the time you're done this 8-week course, you are going to have the knowledge and be prepared to go out there and do this. Do you have the ability to continue being mentored by this group of people after the 8 weeks? Yes, you do. But we're focusing right now on getting this first course started, and it starts tomorrow night. So if you want to join, it's $59.97 plus GST. It's $5,997 plus GST. And Jules just shared the link here in the chat. Just go to investorlife.com/mastery. Join up anytime between now and tomorrow at 8:30 Eastern, guys, and you will be in, and you will be a part, and you'll be one of the original gangsters in our mastery course. You have the opportunity to be an OG, as Hermel brought out last week. So looking forward to that. Yes, and Karina, good question. How is Tiffany doing? She's doing quite well. Yep, but she's also enjoying her time off and not working a whole lot. So we're going to try to keep that going as long as we can. I see another question. We're going to answer everyone, guys. So I thought we were done here, but someone asked, what do you consider a decent rental yield? Do you present it gross or net after tax to an investor? So typically when we are sharing our ROIs, we would call them, or cash flow, it depends what an investor wants. Does an investor look for cash flow? Is an investor looking for equity appreciation? We would, depending on what that particular investor is looking for, we might present it differently. I would look for a market. And so this is where it gets complicated. Market depends on the property. If it's an old property that needs lots of work, I might want much higher numbers than a property that's brand new and turnkey. I'm okay with lower numbers. The risk is less. So there's no way to say, what do I consider a decent rental yield? Now, that's not the case. Maybe when it comes to multifamily, maybe it's a little bit more predictable when it comes to that. And I think that you refer to that as a cap rate is kind of what you're kind of referring to there, maybe. And of course, that depends on what market you're in as well. So it's a tough question to answer. There we go. I think we have answered the questions we had for tonight. So thank you guys for joining us. We will see all of our Ignited members over in our laser session here in about 5 minutes. And we're doing something really cool in our laser session tonight. So we're looking forward to that. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week, guys, for another Tactical Tuesday. And join us in our Multifamily Mastery if you haven't joined yet. We'll see you next week, guys.